Okay, this is the second YouTube video, so we're continuing on from the previous one. Let's finish off the basic YouTube player functionality now. Okay, I'm continuing on. The other thing we need to do is, of course, play the video because we haven't put that code in yet. So we need to put a test in here. If not was restored, then we want to actually play the video. So it's player.queue video. And it'll be our YouTube video ID. No arguments needed. Okay. Now what we need to do is create those two listeners, the playback event listener and the player state change listener. Now essentially they're both going to be blank. We're not going to have any functionality in there, but we do need to provide it. So what we're going to do is just create a private listener, private playback event listener, playback event listener equals new playback event listener, playback event listener, and then we need to add a few empty methods. So we're going to do public void on buffering, which takes a parameter boolean arg0, but nothing. Then we've got on paused, on playing. So we'll do on paused, public void on pause. And you could normally add all this functionality. So if this happens, if the video gets paused, for example, we can implement some functionality. But of course, we're not doing that here. We're going to leave them all default. In their default state for now. And public on playing, we need public void on playing. We also need another one which is on seek to, public void, and that takes an integer argument, but that's going to be empty as well. Just moving down a bit here, so make a bit more space so we can see what we're doing. And the last one we need is on stopped, public void on stopped, and that should make the setup now happy, which it is. So that's the first one. And the second one, and we'll just close it down, or clear up some space I should say. And what we'll do now is I'll just make a bit more space so it goes up higher on the screen. We then now basically need to do the same thing for our player state change listener. So private player state change listener, or we can call it play state. Did we call it play state? I can't remember. We'll call it play state change listener equals new player state change listener. And also for that, we're going to create the class here. And Command Shift O again. And now we need to implement some methods. We need an on add started. You can see how flexible this API is. All these events we can actually trap and do certain things if we want to. On add started. But again, for the purposes of this first test, these are all going to be blank. We need an on error, public void on error, and that'll have a pass to us an error reason. We'll just call that arg0 again. Command Shift O, and that would be the YouTube player error reason. Okay, we need an onloading, public void onloading, and we also need an on video ended, public void on video ended. I'll put this up here actually, public void on video started, and that should then make it happy. And I think I got a typo there. I think that should be unloaded. Yes, it's unloaded, not unloading. And I think I need an unloaded as well. Public void onloaded. String arg0. And that's now happy. So these are all, again, these are all areas that we can put functionality in if we wanted to, but we're not going to do that for the purposes of this test. Okay, so I think we're close to being ready. What we also need to do is go back and put something in our manifest file so that we can have access to the internet. So I'm going to go to the YouTube player manifest file. We need to add our internet access. And that's users permission Android name equals android.permission.internet. Okay, so we've got access to the internet. I think I've got a typo there. That should be O for on initialization on initialization in lowercase. Okay, so we can save that, and our errors should be. Oops, I've got too many spaces down the bottom here. I'll clear that up. Now we should be okay. We're good to go. All right, so I think we're just about ready for a test. Now, I'll just click back into there. One thing, we'll go back and check our emulator. I find, and this has been something that a lot of developers have found, that the YouTube APIs don't seem to play well on Android virtual devices. There is people who say that it works, but invariably when I try it doesn't work. But we'll try it again and just see whether this does work. But I'm not hopeful, so what I'll probably have to do is just run it on my real device. So I'm going to click on YouTube Player, and I'm going to run this, or I'm just going to select Run. Android application, okay. Yes, we'll save the changes. And we'll see what happens. We'll probably get an error, I would think. Nothing so far. It's a good sign, I have to say. We'll have a look at the logcat to see whether there's any errors. Okay, so still nothing. So I'm going to plug in my Android device. I did find that sometimes it does crash, but sometimes it just essentially doesn't seem to work on the Android virtual device. Probably something to do with the graphics. So I want to configure this now, so it's going to ask each time what device to run on. I'm going to click on Run Configurations, Target, and Always Prompt. And now I'm going to run it on my device. We'll just see if that works. If it does, I'll switch over to the video showing that. Silly me. I made a silly mistake here. Notice the methods should always be starting with lower cases. And of course, I've got an uppercase O there. Bit of a silly error. So what was happening was that onCreate method wasn't being executed. So of course, it wasn't doing anything. It was just showing the blank layout. So let's try again. I'm going to run it on the Android virtual device first to see whether it works on there. As I said, in the past, it's come up with an error. Now, that's the error that would normally come up in the Android virtual device. An error occurred while initializing the YouTube player. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem to work in the Android virtual device. But let's switch over now to my tablet, and I'll just do a test run of that. And if that works, I'll just switch over the output so we can see what it looks like. And as sometimes happens, when in doubt with Android devices, unplug and plug in again. I do that quite often. Unfortunately, it just seems to lose the connection to the device sometimes. So I've unplugged and plugged it in again, and we'll try it again. This time it seems to have found it and it's working. And I can see it on the screen. I'll just wait till the video loads up. Okay, it looks like that's going to work, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is, okay, I'm going to switch over now to the Android device, and where you can see the output of what's happening on the screen now. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll click it into full screen mode, that little button, and play, and it should start buffering and download. And there you can see it going through. Give it a bit longer. And it's actually working, so it's playing a YouTube video. So there you go, that's the first stage of our process. We're going to stop the video here. In the next set of videos we're going to go through, we're going to enhance this video player. We're going to add a button so we can play a video on a button press and show the concept of an intent. And also we can then go through and show you how to play a playlist as well. So I'll see you in that next video.